Let's go.
Well, I have no idea what the hell that game was. Buffalo Bandits lose, and they fall out of first place to the Toronto Rock. Final score. I'm going to say this twice. So, to tell you, I'm not joking around here. 18 to 7. 18 goals by the Toronto Rock to 7 of the Buffalo Bandits. I was dumbfounded. I turned the game off a couple times, switched it over to the Sabres game because they were actually beating the Philadelphia Flyers that night. So had to watch one Buffalo team do well. I kind of turned back when we made it 7-3, I think the scores, because we were down 7-0 early.
hmm
But it was starting to get a little bit competitive there in the second quarter. But then after that, I turned it off and on maybe three more times. And I watched the fights at the end of the game, and that's about it. We couldn't even win those. It was so bad. But Trevor Howard, Tony LaMonica, aka Boxhead 98 TL, with another episode of Banditland Boulevard. Probably the worst loss other than Game 3 that we have covered on this show.
Yeah, I just honestly, I thought high hopes for these guys. I really did. You're going in, uh, having probably one of the best defensive games of your season, and then it just completely turned around and bit you right back in the face. It's like you guys forgot how to play lacrosse. It was unbelievable. And just hearing the news, I mean, sorry, folks, for me not watching the game personally, but only seeing updates through the possible website. And
Tony, it's
just,
okay. I watched it for you. You don't even need to go back and watch
it's,
the game
I don't
again.
even know. I don't
Do
even know if
not.
I want to say anything because of the fact how ugly you guys just played. It was just an F report card effort
Yep.
on all aspects of the game. And I'm not trying to say that to one player, it's to the whole team. The whole team didn't play like they used to or they should be. And it's not a first place team if you're going to play this bad, especially towards the late in the season. And again, being held under 10 goals. That's not good, boys. That's
Tony,
not. I'm sorry to say that.
we have not played like a first place team in the last month. Since the Philadelphia Wings game, we have not played like a first place team. Scoring 10 goals here, 10 goals here, 8 goals here, 7 goals here, 7 goals here. That is not a recipe to win. And if
No.
we're not even going to call out individual players, or
Nope.
or at least we're gonna try not to, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this episode would be 3 hours long if we went through every player on the freaking roster.
Pretty
But
much true.
I mean, this is a common trend we've been seeing since 2022. Big games. The Bandits tuck their head, get in the fetal position, and get kicked around. Game 3, that happened last year. Game 2, that happened last year. Luckily, this year, that didn't happen with Rochester in February in, I guess, at that home game where we beat them 13-10 for first place. But this one, you're pushing towards the end of the season, 4 games to go. Toronto, who is missing two of their top two defensemen, I might add,
Mm-hmm.
they shut you freaking down, and they win that game 18-7. The Bandits were in the fetal position the whole game, getting kicked around by Corey Small because it's always former Bandits, getting
Mm-hmm.
laid out by their transition game. Billy Hostrauser absolutely annihilating us on his bobblehead night there. All around, horrible performance, and you can't just blame one person. Matt Vince looked terrible. We praise him when he does great, but he looked absolutely terrible. And just the offense, defense, goaltending, nothing was good. Coaching, yes, we got screwed out of a goal, I think, early in the first quarter when McCauley they said he had his hand in the crease when he pulled it out just in time and then they scored and they waved it off.
Didn't
They
see
say
that.
crease violation, but I don't care. That goal goes in, we lose by 10 instead of 11. So I really
Yeah.
don't give a shit about that. But
Mm-hmm.
the Bandits right now, dude, I am legitimately concerned right now, to say the least. And we talked about this a little bit last week after the San Diego Seals game. 7
Mm-hmm.
goals is not a recipe to beat anyone. And then the week before that, Colorado, 8 goals against a team like Colorado, who is in fourth right now in the West. That's not going to help you win games or climb up in the standings. And,
Mm-mm.
you know, we've been saying this has been happening, and you're missing your top two defensemen. This is the perfect
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to have your offense absolutely explode, go for 14, 15 goals. If they won this game 18-15, I'd be like, wow, our defense was bad, but I would be able to tolerate that. We scored 15 goals. You guys got your asses kicked 18-7. I'm not going to have any sympathy for you. That's just bad lacrosse. And I encourage the Toronto fans to say we want 20 because when you're up by that much, screw this unwritten rule crap. Run up the score on them. Make them feel bad. These two teams hate each other. And the whole fights at the end of the game, we could be going through all this stuff, but it was all around bad. The penalties were ridiculous. The back-to-back shorthanded goals on the same penalty that they scored to go up 2-0 and 3-0, it was all bad.
Yeah, it's just after watching, well, not watching, but looking up the stats after the bowling tournament and seeing that the fact that the Bandits just didn't bring their A game at all. It's just like they've forgotten how to play. And as a team, you didn't get just beat by double the score. They just wanted to kick you a little bit more while you were down and bleeding out. It's just, that's how bad they beat you guys. And 18-7 monstrous slashing of the Toronto Rock. And again, this is, like you said, brings up concerns about the next 3 games left into the regular season. And for a week off to let them think about what they've just went through, especially with how they played against an Eastern Division rival. And again, you may not see them the first round, but you better be praying to God you don't see them into the finals in the Eastern Conference, because they have your number.
I would have zero confidence in that game. Zero
after
confidence.
A display like that was horrifying to even see on the stat sheet. But I'm glad I didn't actually watch the game, to be quite honest with you. I would have been screaming at the TV. I would have probably been throwing things because of the fact that, you're very passionate about your boys in the orange and black. But again, it's like, okay, listen, I'm not trying to say everyone is perfect, because you're not. Okay.
No, we're all
but
human
when
beings.
You're right. But when we're all for the fact of, what you have to do, you're going up against a rival. You have to play to the aspects of the game and to be better than the opponent. Well, obviously, I don't know what's inside your guys' head. What triggered you to say, I'm not playing?
Nothing lacrosse related is in their heads right now.
It's like, why even set foot on the floor if you're not going to bring your best and not go out there and at least try? And I'm not saying you didn't, but the fact is that they kicked your ass all over Hamilton.
Yep.
They literally did. I'm sorry to say it, folks, and I'm sorry for our sponsorships, because it's going to go to rated R down to almost rated X the way it feels like right now. But the fact is, it's
NC-17.
Oh, good Lord, let's not go that crazy. But otherwise, poor performance, guys. I'm sorry. I mean, outside looking in and not actually playing. Well, I partially play lacrosse, but only for recreational reasons. But the fact is, I've watched you guys for years. We should know what to expect. And guys, the March to May, you guys aren't marching. You're crawling to get there now. You're limping to get there now. You guys have to find a rhythm again. You guys have lost it. I mean, yes, I know the record speaks for itself. Yes, we're still impressive with 11 wins out of 15. I get that. But recently, you guys have a high-powered offense, and you should be scoring easily over 10. Now, with the fact that you only scored 7, 8, 7, and whatnot, it's like
they scored 14 goals in their last 120 minutes. That's how bad it's been. And Toronto scored 18 in 60.
I don't know what to say, guys.
No, I mean, I put out on Facebook the other night, if we're limping into the playoffs, we are first round exits without a doubt. I got a lot of heat for that, but I said wake up and smell the coffee, because that is the reality of this thing. Teams that limp into the playoffs, you look at a team like Georgia right now, man, a team that is just on the outside. They were 0-7. They've won 6 out of their last 7 games. They're in 5th, or they're in 6th place, but just I think half a game behind the Philadelphia Wings and the Halifax Thunderbirds. Yep. That is going to be the scorching hot team. So there's a silver lining. Toronto will have to face against most likely a white hot Georgia team in the first round. That's the only thing that I like about not being in first place right now. But also, look at it this way. Should we be in first place when you look at these stats? 177 goals for, 161 goals against. That is a plus 16 goal differential. Do you know who has a higher goal differential than we do right now?
Toronto.
Toronto absolutely does. I think they almost double. But Panther City has a higher goal differential than we do. And they are riding in solid 3rd place in the West with a 9-6. We are miles better than the Panther City Lacrosse Club. And it's just, you look at all right here. Everyone on Facebook saying, well, we're a first place team. We're a first place team. No, we're not. You see the way we've won half of our games, or at least a quarter of our games? We've come
By
from
a
behind
thread.
4 or 5 goals in the fourth quarter, the third quarter, and we win half of those in overtime. And that's just
Well,
not, those are,
thankfully,
like, you don't have to blow teams out, but we're not getting very convincing wins. This reminds me of the Bills limping into the playoff game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And what happened? They got absolutely shellacked at home in front of a sold-out building.
Yep.
So I'm just calling it how it is right now. They have 3 more weeks to right the ship, but I also put out on my Facebook that there is a silver lining to this. This might be the loss that humbles the Bandits so much and really just has them focusing on the crucial things, the small things of the game. They don't have to change much. Just make some minor adjustments, minor tweaks to the offense. And the defense has to be more consistent because, I mean, let's be real. Matt Vince had a bad night. Devlin Shanahan had a bad night. But the defense was giving them literally freaking nothing. But there is a silver lining to this. This might be a humbling loss because they got, in my opinion, they got too comfortable winning from come-from-behind fashion every single week. Maybe this will be that spark to really piss them off and say, let's take more charge in the first quarter. Let's take more charge in the second quarter. Let's kind of step on their throats by the third, and let's still cross the line without coasting in the fourth quarter. Because while the come-from-behind victories are very, very fun to watch at the KeyBank Center, and you get what you pay for absolutely with your tickets when you go to those types of games, believe me, the Philadelphia Wings game was one of my favorite games I've ever been to. The Rochester Nighthawks game in February was one of my favorite games I've ever been to because of the secondary scoring and the come-from-behind fashion that they would use to win those games. But maybe this is that loss that says, okay, enough's enough. We can't be surviving because we're on life support right now when we're doing these games the way we are, coming from behind and having to win in overtime every week. That's just not going to cut it because you got a red-hot Toronto team that's looking good. You got Rochester, which thank God they're in third place because if the season ended right now, we'd be hosting a game against the struggling. And I mean, they're limping worse than us right now. The Nighthawks, they lost in overtime again to the Wings. That's a silver lining there. But you're looking at this team like Georgia, man. They are on the rise. Now they have a +7 goal differential. And if you play the way you played against Toronto, you're not beating anybody. You're not beating the Firewolves. You're not beating the Vancouver Warriors. Look at the top 4 of the Western Conference. And do you think that we would have if the season ended, if that was our last game of the season, 18-7, would we have a legitimate shot at beating the Mammoth, Panther City, Calgary, or San Diego?
Nope. Not one
I have
bit.
no confidence.
You can't.
No confidence.
Not with the way they're playing. Not with the way they played that very night against Toronto. That was, God. You really want to say what you want to say on this show, but sometimes you got to kind of bite your lip. But in a way, it's like, guys, you need to wake up.
No, they really lost 18-7, so I think we should say whatever we want.
Yeah, that was absolutely horrifying. After, like I said, after seeing the score sheet, I just didn't know what to say. And everyone's telling me in Pennsylvania, like, what happened to your team? I thought they were the greatest.
They got destroyed.
Not that night.
They got humbled. They got cold cocked, and it started in the beginning.
7 straight goals to start it off, especially with Toronto. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good.
Corey Small almost having a career night.
10 points.
It's hard to find positives. Like Chris Kluche scoring 2 goals is nice. He's been consistently scoring 2 or 3 goals a game, which since his return, so that's good. Dane Smith
keeping up with 5.
Keeping up with 5 points, but he's lost that goal scoring ability because teams have film on them now. And once they lock up Dane Smith, I guess we can't score more than 10 goals. But I thought we had that secondary by the time Josh Byrne was out. And I said that too. I said this is a hot take, but when Josh Byrne was out and Chase Frazier was out and Chris Kluche was out, our offense was better. I have no idea why. I can't answer you that question, but that's just the reality. We scored 14 goals here, 13 goals here. Oh, we got 13 goals again, consistently beating teams. And we were never out of those games because clearly we came back and won a bunch of them. I think more than half of our wins come from behind fashion, but a lot of those games were without our top guys. Then they come back, and then we just all of a sudden forget how to play offense.
Yeah, like it seems like everybody lost the spirit of playing it. Or like the fact that like, oh, now I'm not going to get playing time because the starters are coming back. You guys can't think like that. It's like a role to play in a play. You know, you play your part and then you move on. And basically, this is the thing you got to understand is that their go-to contractors, Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Chris Kluche, Toke and Nanticoke, and Chase Frazier are going to be those guys that they're going to look to. And I'm not saying a difference of opinion about you can score or not, or you can outplay them better. But when the time comes where you just need to fill in the role and be like, okay, my offense needs rest. You guys are going to go out there and run a little bit and try to tire the opponents out. I don't know, but we know you guys can all play. Really, every single one on the roster. We
look
know
at their record.
You guys can play.
Look at their record.
Don't lose confidence about not playing, but don't lose the rhythm that you guys had this entire season over one game. I mean, yes, this is great. Now you guys have a bye week again. You get your mindset back and get that winning edge back again, but find whatever you need to start scoring more than 10 and to shut down their offense, because otherwise your defense is going to get eaten up alive for the remaining 3 games, and going into the playoffs, if by far you make it even to number 2 or 3, you guys are going to be in trouble if you don't find it again.
Yep, and the fire Johnny talk is absolutely ridiculous after one game. Like, I understand, and I tip my hat to the Toronto Rock because they hate us, we hate them, and they know that. And they just said, screw it, we're going to pound you guys into the ground anyway and make you guys suffer through the 4 quarters of the game, because they won, or they were up 7-1 at the end of one. So it was really nonstop. And the Bandits, doesn't help that they get shut out in the fourth quarter. So the team that is predominantly a second half team gets absolutely railed in the second half too. Like, there was just no fight whatsoever, and Johnny T can only teach him so much. And Dane and Josh on the Dane and Josh show always say Johnny's the first one to pick up a stick in practice. This is not on Johnny. If he was out there, we'd probably lose 18-13 because Johnny would probably take smarter shots than half the team did. I think he still has it. I think Johnny T would still have it. We'd probably lose that game by smaller margin. I think he would take way smarter shots than a lot of our other players did from the restraining line. We're doing the mistakes that would shoot us in the foot in 2022, where we would wait till 2 seconds to take a desperation shot on net, and we'd shoot it wide or shoot it in the crowd and then turn it over and then get a stupid penalty because we're frustrated. And that's what happened. Steve Priolo is getting a hearing, or I don't even know if that already happened, but he might be getting suspended when we come back from our bye week because he decided with less than a minute to go to slash someone in the head with a stick.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And he got a 5-minute major for a slash. This guy's supposed to be our captain, Tony, and a lot of people love Steve Priolo. I've been just patient with him this year. I think he's been taking a lot of dumb penalties, a lot of misconducts, and that's not what captains are supposed to do. There's your hot take of the day. I don't know if Steve Priolo going into next year should be captain.
Well, I mean, I didn't, like I said, you bringing it up to me now about the fact that he slashed somebody in the head at the end, and obviously if you do something that's silly or stupid, you're gonna have to end up having the repercussions of being foolish on the field. So you know what? If that's the case, maybe that would have been a wake-up call. Maybe that might smarten them up. But I mean, other than that, I mean, you're right. The captain has got to take control of this team and
got to settle them down if something like that happens.
Yeah, like they need to make them calm and relax and play smarter, not be taking dumb penalties, and especially for the captain to do that too. You know, you can't allow that stuff to happen. You got to let that go, and you got to just keep pressing forward. You can't just let them get in your heads and just take dumb penalties. And that's the thing that happened.
And that's the rough thing. And that's the thing about, hockey and lacrosse. The C on your jersey is such an ego boost for half the time. And it doesn't do anything beneficial. I would just love to have Johnny T as the captain/coach. So everyone's egos would be at a minimum. Or going into this year, I was saying Dane Smith should be captain. He's been wearing the A for much too long. And I think you can see from the early season stats that he's had, not really much in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but he was playing like a captain. He was picking up his boys when they were injured. He was feeding the ball to their secondary guys, and they were getting some success. Dalton Solvers and Brad McCulley's and players like that were getting a lot of success because he's feeding them and finding them wide open and giving them a shot. That's what captains are supposed to do. Yeah, sure, your captain goes down and scores in overtime in San Diego, which is great. But he also takes, how many 10-minute misconducts has he had this year? How many major penalties have he had this year, not including fights? Like, your captain's not supposed to do that.
Gotta be smarter.
And I don't hate Steve Priolo, but I'm just asking the question.
You gotta be smart, dude. You can't you gotta lead by example.
Yep.
You want these guys to lead by you. You can't be doing stupid stuff like that. I understand you're frustrated, you're pissed off, you're probably angry at yourself, and on top of it, the team too as well for how bad you guys played. But that doesn't give you any reason to go out there and do something as foolish like that, and not only that, but costing your playing time and probably getting a fine and suspension for like a game or two. I don't know what the ruling is, but again, you got to stay composed. You got to stay calm, and you got to just be like, you know what? We just didn't play.
Nope.
We got to just come back next game and the following from there on in and just play our asses off. That's all you can do. I mean, I know it sucks it sucks to lose. Believe me. I know how, but again, it's a wake-up call. This is something you guys might need, and be like, okay, well, we're maybe not the greatest team in the East. Maybe we need to just be up in there in the standings in the top 4 and just be like, okay, now we have something to prove to ourselves.
Take the pressure off of us,
to other teams,
which is a benefit of not being in first place. It takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Of course.
But, I mean, you want to be in first place. You want to get the number. You want to clinch home field.
Correct.
Because if Toronto wins, if the season ended right now and Toronto wins and we win over Rochester, Toronto hosts us in their building. We know we can't win there. Clearly.
Correct.
Well, I mean, we won there earlier in the season when it was much closer. It was a much more competitive type of game. But Toronto saw us on the schedule and said, we're going to beat these guys no matter what, and they absolutely did.
Sure did.
But it's been tough. It's been tough the past 4 weeks.
It has not been the way, not the way the Bandits should be playing. You don't come into the town and just be like, oh yeah, we're going to win with 8 goals and you're going to get nothing. But you obviously did 18 and we're like, okay, well, we didn't play.
And
so,
also,
again, it sucks.
It sucks, but there are some positives to take out of it, I guess, because we got that much needed bye week. We've played a lot of weeks in a row, a lot of consecutive weeks played. So we get that much needed bye week, a chance for Chase Frazier to heal up a little bit. I think Tehoka Nanakoka has a concussion, so I think another week off would be beneficial to him. And I'm not sure what's going on with Sam LaRue, but and I said I wasn't going to call players out, but I'm doing it anyway. Look at that. But I mean, we reserved him from the expansion draft last year, and he's done nothing. And Connor Fields right now, while he has, and the team has struggled for a while, but we could have used him against Toronto. I don't know why we're going to reserve Sam LaRue, I mean, you're looking at some of these players, and I'm like, dude, like Sam LaRue has only played like 3 games this year, while Connor Fields has been one of the best players in the East. Like, I just got to question Steve Dietrich there for that, but I know I'm not the only one that thinks that way, but that's just what I'm thinking. And, there are some positives, the bye week, and there are still three more games to go against a very, very struggling New York Riptide team that we know we can handle. At home, we have Toronto again, so the battle for first place is not over. And we have a road game against a very, very struggling Albany Firewolves team. So if we can keep it at 4 or 5 losses on the year, which would be ideal, I'd be fine with that as long as the offense comes back and the defense gets more consistent. I care more about this offense. Why are we not scoring over 10 goals? Why can't we score 11 goals anymore? Like, this has been a little bit concerning to me, or actually a lot of bit concerning now, considering the implications of the loss last time, and also the ability to play in big games. Game 2 and Game 3, those were winnable games against the Mammoth, and they tucked their heads in and turtle shelled. They did the same thing, except their heads were exposed against Toronto, and they were just getting their head kicked in. And the Game 1 of the season, which is normally a big game, knocking some rust off, they lose 11-10 to the Albany Firewolves. It's the ability to play in big games that I'm a little bit concerned about as well. But players of the game, your guess is as good as mine. I'll say the Bandits fans that stayed the entire time. Those are your players of the game. None of the Bandits deserve a player of the game. The coaching doesn't either. And if I had to give out a legitimate player of the game, I would say Corey Small.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, like I said, it sucks not seeing him
Nick Rose
in the Bandits uniform again. But he had a great night. He had 10 points total. Nick Rose playing out of his mind, obviously keeping the Bandits under 10. And who was the other guy? Was it
Billy Hostrauser, Schuber, or Schreiber? Jubinville, yeah.
Jubinville was the 3rd star of the game, and he obviously has been growing ever since he's been on the Toronto Rock. So, again, a game to let go. Hopefully, keep moving forward. And
don't forget about this game either. Remember how you got here. If you're a Bandits player, this is the game that you might hate to remember it, but you will always remember it, or at least for this season, because this might be the turnaround game, the game that really gets them thinking like, wow, we got exposed by a rival. We're out of first place. You should be angry. This is the game that you should remember. If you lose a 18-14 game, it's just one of those games. All right, yeah, forget about it. Put in the rearview mirror. This game should not be forgotten. And if I'm Johnny T, I'm making them sit down and watch the film of this game with their eyes open like this, you know,
Yep.
and be
Clamps
like,
on their eye shed.
do you want this to happen again? If you don't, play better.
That's it. You only can do what you can do, but also you better play 1,000% better against these guys when you face off against them in April 22nd.
Because you might face against them twice. You never know. You might face against, well, you got one at least for the regular season. You might see them again. You quite possibly see them again in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see until, after the last 3 games of the season, and then we'll figure it out. But other than that, guys, like I said, this game is brought to you by Mitchell's Tavern, 734 Sheridan Drive up in Tonawanda, New York. For the best beef and wick in town, you'll have great food, amazing service. Mention your boys, Tony LaMonica and Trevor Hauer from Banditland Boulevard to say, hey, I want the best beef you got. So then they'll serve you very well.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, we also like to thank those who are watching us on YouTube on our channel. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and also hit that notification bell for every time you see our videos pop up. We want to see more and more content. Also, we'd like to thank those who are listening to us on Spotify.fm and Anchor as well. Give us that 5-star rating and
please
continue to listen to us, guys. No matter what device you have, please just keep on listening. And also, on a good note, just to bring a good note, your boys went down to Pennsylvania. We did end up winning the bowling tournament. So just wanted
Let's
to say.
go. On 80s night, man.
On 80s night. So,
he was rocking the 80s threads that night.
Yeah, I have to say to my buddy Daryl Brocata and myself, obviously bowling over 700 series, taking first place as a team, and that's all that matters. And we brought a title back home to Buffalo for his. So
there's one title that's in Buffalo for the first time since 2008. There you go.
Well, hopefully we'll see more. I mean, I'm not failing on these guys yet. Like I said, this was their wake up call game. So now it's time to wake up. It's you're not living a dream. You're living in reality. Then this was a slap to the face. So now it's time to return the favor.
But don't forget about it, because you have a bye week where this will sit for the next 2 weeks. That's a good thing and a bad thing. That they're going to be thinking about this. Number one, that's bad. But the good news is they're going to be like, oh my God, that game that happened. I just want to rip the team's head off, whoever I'm facing against next week. And they got a team that's limping. They're not even pushing for the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. No. But they saw that score and they said, maybe we can beat these guys. We have a shot. Maybe we can beat these guys. But the last thing you want is to limp into the playoffs, and that's something that I don't want them to do. Nope. But it doesn't matter if they win or if they lose 18-7, 200-7, 700-7. We will always be talking about the boys in the orange and black on this very show. Talking about the good things, bad things, ugly things. Obviously, there weren't a lot of good things in an 18-7 loss, but there were a lot of bad and ugly. But a lot of the times, those bad and ugly things can be used as motivation to turn into really, really good things.
Yep, and hopefully we can see that after the break and their week off. And on top of it, the next home.
I think your sound's cutting out a little bit there, Tony.
Just a little bit?
Right, there you go. There you go. You're better now.
All right, that's good.
When's the next home game?
The next home game, again, if you guys all didn't hear, is April 15th, live at the KeyBank Center at 7:30. So, guys, go get your tickets. Let's get these guys back on their feet and support them as much as possible, because all they can do is want us to cheer on. So,
and that's almost a month, because I think the last game in Banditland was March 18th. So it's almost been a month since, by the time April 15th rolls around, it's almost a month without a game in Banditland. So that's huge. And hopefully we come out with a W coming on April 15th. But I think that's all we have to recap an 18-7 loss. But like we said, we support these guys through everything. Yep. So I guess we only have 3 words to say. No matter what, let's go Bandits. Let's go.